Basically will be a solution that enables EVM users or users on EVM chains to interact with any Cardano DApp using we use Metamask as the example, but technically any EVM wallet. An EVM user can just, for example, buy an asset, a CNT, or do a swap on a DEX on Cardano, where they only have to sign a single transaction in their Metamask.
This is an interesting proposal from Wanchain, and I have Temujin joining me on this episode to talk through the proposal of bringing extra interoperability to the Cardano blockchain by enabling EVM access to Cardano DApps via Metamask. This one's super interesting. Temujin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invite.
So first off, can we start off with a little bit of a background about yourself and what exactly is Wanchain for those people that don't know about it?
Sure. I'm happy to give a little intro. Wanchain, for those of you who don't know, it's a R&D focused blockchain interoperability project. Your audience probably knows us best as the project that deployed the decentralized cross-chain bridges to Cardano last year. When we did that, we connected Cardano to 11 networks and focused on a few blue chip assets, BTC, TH, USDT, USDC. But now that Cardano is part of our infrastructure, it's really technically connected to over 30 different networks right now. It's just a matter of registering specific routes. But Wanchain, ourselves, we've been focused on interoperability from the start since the early days. We launched in 2017. The roots a little bit for, probably from 2016 or so, but officially launched in 2017 and have been focused on trying to make different blockchain networks kind of exist and interact as one meta network since the start. Now, it's been a long journey. We've made a lot of progress. There's still a lot of work to do, but, we are staying true to the mission. And, this is reflected also in this Catalyst proposal, which is yet another step towards interoperability.
That's really cool. And I've seen the adoption from the Cardano community slowly grow more and more with various projects and tokens also adding themselves to the Wanchain bridge to be able to connect over to other chains. Now, I know this is a really common question for a lot of people and a lot of projects in the community in general, but what's the process for a project to be enabled on the Wanchain bridge?
Yeah, the process is pretty straightforward. You can, if you don't believe me, you can ask some of the other projects. I know it's all been very smooth with all of them. The process itself really doesn't even take that long. It's a week or two just based on our current pipeline. But the process is simple. You just kind of reach out to Wanchain. You can reach out to us on Twitter or in our Telegram group, or we also have an account on Discord that you can reach out to us too. We spend some time in a few different communities. But all we basically need is the policy IDs, ideally both on the mainnet and pre-production. And then you let us know which of 30 or so different networks you'd like to be able to bridge your token to. And then our engineers get to work. Like I said, a week or two later, we'll let you test it in the background. After we've done our own internal testing, of course, we're pretty rigorous with all that to make sure it all works well. And then it's live. We make a co-announcement together. We don't charge any integration fees or anything like that. So all you need to show is, the desire, and then we'll do it for you.
Sounds too easy. It really, really does. And I have heard from other projects that have been listed through Wanchain. It was a very easy process. So it's really good to know. And I'll put links down below for anyone that's interested in joining Wanchain and bridging their assets over. But how has the growth been since the launch on Cardano? I know there were some major stable assets like USDT, DAI, and USDC that came with the launch. How has it looked since that initial launch phase?
Yeah, it's been a good integration for Wanchain. We always like doing the non-EVM chains. It's one of our specialties. So we really, are encouraged when things go well. Luckily, I think our social team recently posted stats about all of these. So I was able to look them up before joining this call. But things have been quite good, in terms of cross-chain volume for BTC. It's been right around 25 BTC. For the major stable coins like USDC has been the most popular one, unsurprisingly. It's been nearly $8 million in cross-chain volume, passed to and from Cardano. With USDT, a little less than that, but still nothing to scoff at, right around $3 million of cross-chain volume. And then we also bridge DAI over per request from some DApps in the community. And that one has just shy of $1 million of cross-chain volume so far.
That's absolutely amazing growth. I did see those stats, and it's really cool to see that's continuously growing up as well. Now, what about this proposal that you guys have in regards to bringing over EVM wallet capabilities to Cardano? What is this, and how does it possibly work?
Sure. Well, this is part of actually an ongoing partnership that Wanchain has with Maestro, which I'm sure you and your viewers are well aware of. Fantastic team. They actually run some of we use their services basically to power some of the back end of the Cardano bridge. They run an Ogmios node for us. And, we are looking forward to continuing to work together with them. And so we've submitted this proposal together, both Maestro and Wanchain. And, like you said, it basically will be a solution that enables EVM users or users on EVM chains to interact with any Cardano DApp using we use Metamask as the example, but technically any EVM wallet. But Metamask, as you know, is the most popular one. So in this sense, an EVM user can just, for example, buy an asset, a CNT, or do a swap on a DEX on Cardano, where they only have to sign a single transaction in their MetaMask. You can hop in any time. I'll start explaining a little bit how it works. If I'm going too much in the weeds, just hop in and stop me. But the background to this was basically, we ourselves at Wanchain, obviously we knew Cardano for a long time. Some of our own, consensus mechanisms that we use are based on a lot of the research that IOG and the other entities at Cardano have done. Always had a great respect for kind of the academic side. And when we started, working on this integration, and even post-integration, when more of our users started trying out the bridge, there's little silly kind of usability things that do pose obstacles. And one of them is just the wallets. Having to use multiple wallets is just kind of an annoying place to be. It's not that one wallet is necessarily better or than another. MetaMask certainly has its shortcomings, but a lot of people use MetaMask. So it just removes a lot of the kind of friction in terms of interacting with a new ecosystem. If I can just use myself as a user, can just use the same wallet that I'm already using to do these types of things. And, even when I first set up my first Cardano wallet, there's definitely there's a learning curve. It wasn't immediately obvious that I needed to, just as an example, why I needed to stake ADA in a lot of these wallets to interact with smart contracts. Just conceptually, this is not a thing when you're an EVM user. So just kind of this learning process is a little difficult. And, frankly, a lot of people are just going to give up along the way, because if you encounter if I'm just trying to buy Hosky really quick, if I encounter too much friction, I'm probably just going to move on with my day. Hosky cross-chain compatible, by the way, now, thanks to the Wanchain bridge.
Okay.
But the way it works now is basically we're going to upgrade the Wanchain bridge if this proposal passes, and it's going to be able to transport additional data beyond what's needed today just for the token cross chains. And it's going to be built on top of a previous project done by Anastasia Labs that was funded and completed in Fund 10. And it's these smart beacons, which are basically on-chain logic to do a variety of different things. It can almost be anything. It can be a swap. It can be a direct purchase. What have you. It just automates a lot of this, UTXO construction, which usually would have to happen at kind of the front end of the DApp, but it just does it all on chain behind the scenes. So once, we build custom smart router contracts and upgrade the Wanchain bridge, then the way it works is that the user on the EVM chain, they're going to be like, okay, I want to buy Hosky. And then they're going to sign the transaction. I want to buy 100 USDC worth of Hosky, and then sign one transaction on their MetaMask. Behind the scenes, what's going to happen is that it's going to trigger first a bridge transaction that's going to transport all the necessary data. It's going to be a lot of stuff that people might not immediately think of, but you need to know, for example, what asset you want to start the purchase with, what asset you want to end up purchasing, where you want to do this purchase. Is there going to be any type of time delay built in, any type of logic like that? And importantly, also, which smart beacon you need to target, and also once this flow is complete, where do you return the Hosky to? So all this information will be packaged in the cross-chain transaction, be delivered to the target smart beacon contract, and then the smart beacon will trigger all the on-chain logic on Cardano. In this case, just for example, Wing Riders. Okay, it'll go to Wing Riders. It'll have the USDC that the user on EVM sent, and then do the swap for Hosky, and then will trigger a cross-chain transaction in the other direction, and then give the Hosky to the EVM user in their MetaMask wallet as a wrapped Hosky. And so this is all happening behind the scenes. What the user experiences themselves is just one transaction. I want to buy Hosky and this much. So this is just a very, very basic example. You can do pretty much any type of on-chain logic. You could buy NFTs directly from a project who's trying to, raise funds. You could do swaps. You could even do various things with lending platforms. Obviously, there's other considerations you have to think about, but there's no technical reason why you couldn't do it. You could even create new types of true cross-chain DApps this way, things that wouldn't be possible before. For example, if you were crazy enough to want to dollar cost average Hosky over
Yeah.
a week, you could build something like that too, where someone could do it with their assets on Ethereum, for example. And then over time, you'll be doing the purchases on ADA, on Cardano, and then return the fruits of that labor once the transactions are complete.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot to unwrap there, and some stuff I didn't know about either. Those smart beacons by Anastasia Labs, I really have to dig into that and see what those guys have built. Some amazing tech coming out of there. Now, I'm just visualizing this process of interacting with the swap and the DApps and getting those tokens over. So the bridging process itself takes about 2 minutes ish. Going from one chain to another, I tested with a BNB chain over to Cardano, so it may vary from chain to chain. What is the average round time trip like for something like this? I'm sure you have some estimates, because I've worked extensively on the Milkometer side of things, and they have something called wrapped smart contracts, and it sounds like a very similar concept of interacting with the Milkometer EVM chain with a Cardano wallet. So it sounds like a very similar thing. And that bridging process does take a while on Milkometer. So I'm wondering what the experience is like in terms of time-wise it'll be for this.
In terms of averages, frankly, that's probably not the best metric to use, because, as you rightfully pointed out, it'll be very, very chain specific. If we did it from just for example, like XRP ledger or even BNB chain, Avalanche, these faster chains, then it'll be a couple of minutes, like you said, on average. But if you did it directly from a slower chain, could be Polygon or Bitcoin or something like that, we'd be looking at 20 plus minutes for Polygon, and then for Bitcoin, could be an hour. So very, very much chain dependent. Because the bridging process itself, if we're first only looking at the cross-chain component, the bridge part itself, our mechanism doesn't really add much additional time to the transactions. It's negligible. What really dictates the time are the speeds of the two chains involved. So if you're just, for example, use your BNB chain, even though it's very fast, what's actually happening is the user's initiating a transaction on BNB chain. Then the bridge, is detecting that transaction, but it's choosing to wait. And the reason it waits is it waits for the BNB chain to reach finality. And then once finality is reached, it'll trigger the transaction on ADA. And then your flow is on Cardano, excuse me. And then your cross-chain transaction is complete. But different chains reach finality at very, very different times. BNB is fast. Some chains are even one block finality. But then, like I mentioned, Polygon, people might have, their eyebrows might have raised when I called that a slow chain. It's not because the transaction speed is slow, but it's because it's slow to finality. It takes about 20 minutes for Polygon to reach finality. So this is where the time gets spent. And then if you're talking about this new proposal, the whole flow, it'll be a several minute process, because you'll have the first couple minutes, let's say, from BNB to Cardano, then, a minute or whatever it turns out to be to do the swap on Cardano itself. And then, another couple of minutes to return the funds to the user on the EVM side. So it is a few minute process.
Okay, well, I can definitely see the ease of interoperability for users, or opening that interoperability to Cardano by enabling those wallets for sure. So I can really see the benefits there. Are there any other clear benefits from opening this up? Like you mentioned, the wallets was always a barrier to entry. Is there anything else that's blocking users from entering the Cardano ecosystem from your point of view?
Sure. Yeah, I think Cardano itself is still relatively isolated from a lot of the rest of the industry because it functions so differently. And really similar to the bridge we already deployed, what we're really building is a tool. And so the different DApp developers, they can leverage this tool to make the onboarding experience smoother and better. Even just now, just to even provide a bit more clarity or to just wax poetic a bit, even though if you just do out of the box what I just described, okay, it's several minutes to do this flow, but there's nothing stopping from a different project from building a product on top of this protocol. For instance, it wouldn't take much additional effort to add kind of a liquidity provision layer on top of it to make the experience for the end user quicker. By that, I mean, okay, the user triggers the cross-chain transaction to buy Hosky. Hosky project team detects that this flow has begun and that the funds have reached Cardano. They could have an additional function built on top, which immediately credits the user for a specific amount of Hosky to kind of lower that time. When you're surfacing it on the front end as a product, you can also, obviously, people want to know how much they're going to get. You can also just display that on a UI. There's lots of little things you can do to build kind of more fleshed out products that just leverage this tool, because this is just really a tool to empower developers. But to answer your question more specifically in terms of other difficulties in terms of onboarding users, I think a lot of it is just because there's a lot of learning to do. So the more you can just get users to just behave in the way that they are already used to behaving, the easier it'll be to get them to come. So for example, there's a lot of great stuff happening in Cardano. You see a lot of crazy headlines saying that there's no projects or there's no DeFi. And anyone who's engaged with Cardano knows it's simply not true. But people who are not in Cardano don't really get exposed to these projects because you can almost say you're not speaking the same language as they're speaking. They can see things happening in other EVM chains because it's a very, very simple process to go from one EVM to another if I want to go chase, a Hosky or something like that. But on Cardano, it's not so easy. So making just this user experience, this user journey easier, I think is going to do a lot of wonders. And then the different projects, they can leverage this to go out and properly target these other communities who are not already in Cardano, because now it's a much easier task for a small team. It's no longer, okay, I have this cool NFT. Not only do I have to go convince these Ethereum users or Avalanche users that this is a cool project, but I also have to teach them how to use Cardano. And that's a huge task for a small team. With tools like this, it just cuts out that second half. You only now need to convince them that this is a cool NFT that you should buy. And then the process is one step. Click, using the wallet they already use. Now they're in.
You make a really good point there, especially with the NFT scenario, the example that you gave. I know a lot of NFT artists that don't want to go to Cardano because they have to learn how to start up a Cardano wallet. And then when they sell the NFT, they have to teach their users how to use a Cardano wallet as well. So you're right. They're having this entire EVM experience from Metamask, for example, will be absolutely perfect for this and really bring that level of usability to the chain. So I really hope this one gets voted for. So if anyone is excited already and realizes the level of interoperability this will bring, please look at the links down below so you can vote for this. Now, I just want to backtrack a little bit. You did mention like Cardano DApps integrating and building on top of this tech. I just want to bring up this example. So a DApp like Dex Hunter could integrate in Wanchain's tech and enable cross-chain capabilities. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so frankly, something like Dex Hunter could even integrate the existing cross-chain bridge that we've deployed. Just the functionality of the bridge, so-called bridge, is different. But absolutely, these existing dApps will be able to integrate this. The kind of, let's say, work, engineering task that would need to be done is mostly related to the smart beacons on the, from the DApp perspective, I mean, because the smart beacons, need to be customized for the specific task. Like I mentioned, it's executing all the on-chain logic. So if you're a DApp and you want to integrate a smart beacon, you need to know what you want to be accomplishing. But the cross-chain component, the existing DApps don't need to worry about that. This Wanchain, via this proposal, and the Wanchain team itself is going to handle that stuff to be able to kind of deliver the payload, the cross-chain payload to trigger these smart beacon contracts. So the integration itself, not zero work needed, but not a huge task.
Okay. Now, there is this huge stigma with bridges, especially in the Cardano ecosystem. Like when our DeFi ecosystem was first blossoming, first growing, we had Nomad come in and bridge some stable assets over. And we're all really excited. And then literally a month later, the Nomad bridge got hacked and a lot of liquidity got drained and a lot of people really upset. And then the following year, multi-chain, which we're looking at integrating into the Cardano ecosystem as well, suddenly ceased to exist for some really unknown reasons still. There's lots of rumors, but we still don't know exactly what happened there. Now, how do we try and fight this type of stigma, this kind of fear that a lot of people will have, and how is Wanchain different and resilient to such things such as the Nomad hacks, the security side of things, and the centralized multi-chain aspects where they were literally, the CEO was literally holding the keys to a lot of the nodes, which is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot to unpack here. And do hop in if my answer gets long-winded. But I think before even specifically tackling this issue, it's totally understandable why there's mistrust for bridges, not only in Cardano, but industry-wide. There's even beyond the two you just mentioned, there's been a lot of bridge hacks in the past 18 months or 2 years. It's really been kind of a black eye, not only on bridges, but the industry as a whole, because gets a lot of headlines. These are the types of headlines that make it even outside, the blockchain sphere that go into the mainstream. Another hack. It's half of the black eyes in the dirt is, DeFi hacks, and the other half is bridge hacks. But for us, at least, what can I say? I can say interoperability is needed. It's a must. So it's not really an option, in my humble opinion. If we want mainstream blockchain adoption, to just say, well, we can't interact with bridges. Okay, maybe we need to abandon the term bridge because maybe that term is just ruined now because of all the hacks that have happened. But ultimately, we really believe that you need interoperability. You need blockchains to be able to interact with one another. Just if we want to have any hope at all to kind of have the world run on blockchain. It's not really realistic to expect all the world to run on a single blockchain, not only operationally, but also just technically. That's a huge load. So you're going to need multiple blockchains. And if you're going to have multiple blockchains involved, you're going to need interoperability between these chains. And bridges, all they are is the interoperability layer that connects different chains, that pass data and the like. Now, it provides no solace to people who did lose money in previous hacks and things like that. That there are these kind of growing pains, and also no solace in what I'm about to say next. But I think it's important to understand that these bridge hacks, we kind of look at them very deeply every time, at least every time a major one happens, and go do a deep dive, understand what happens, make sure that this type of exploit is not possible in Wanchain's stack. But it quickly becomes evident, when you start looking at this stuff, that bridge hacks and failures are not unique to bridges. And when I say not unique to bridges, I mean the part that has failed is not really something that only exists in bridges. Like you mentioned the multi-chain. The CEO had keys to all the funds. That's not really anything to do with a bridge. That's not a cross-chain component that's failing. That's just, if we want to be generous, it's just a little misguided. And if you want to not be generous, it's fraud. But you've seen things like that outside of bridges too. Private keys leaking. this has happened both in bridges and in DeFi, then all the funds get stolen. You've seen smart contract logic. I think that's probably more similar to what happened with Nomad, where they're not properly verifying messages. They're just approving everything willy nilly. Again, that's smart contract logic. It's not something that's unique to bridges. Now, for Wanchain specifically, we're a very conservative R&D firm. We're slow and meticulous in our building. Those who were watching Wanchain build these Cardano bridges, we were publicly doing it for over a year, and obviously there was work in the background before that. And the reason it takes so slow is because we are first rely on solid R&D. We do rigorous testing. We don't work alone. We work with other partners where we work directly with IOG, M Labs to kind of make sure there's no blind spots. We get the things audited by firms like Anastasia Labs that really understand Cardano, and the Ethereum sides and the other bridge components have all been audited by other firms as well. I don't know if you want me to get into the specific technicals about how Wanchain itself, the bridge, works on this call, but it is also rigorously tested and has been running for 6 years. Wanchain itself is actually the original cross-chain bridge. So we've been running for 6 years, longer than any other bridge. We've not had any type of security incidents. Now, I think it's crazy if any project ever says that something is 100% unhackable, you just turn around and run. So we're not going to say that, but There is also value in kind of a track record, proven track record of secure operation, and that's what Wanchain has. So I'm never going to say that it's risk-free, but we take security extremely seriously. We're never going to sacrifice security for growth. We have the track record to prove it, and we're going to be here for the long term. So if you're not comfortable now, that's okay. You wait a bit, see other things, more developments. We're not going to give up on the Cardano ecosystem. We believe in the potential of Cardano. We think it's just a few pieces away, from really, really taking off. And we're committed long term to blockchain interoperability. And if I'm speaking to someone right now who doesn't think that interoperability is needed long term for blockchain, maybe we're never going to end up on the same page. But at least to those who believe that interoperability is a necessary component to the widespread adoption of blockchain, then there's conversations to be had. We're always willing to talk to the community and talk about our approach to things and how things work. And we're going to build this interoperable future together.
Interoperability is definitely my middle name. So I think it's absolute key to the growth of the DeFi space, and especially for the Cardano ecosystem. So I can't wait for more of this to come into play and see what Wanchain can do for the Cardano ecosystem. Now, with that, is there any plans to grow the usage of the bridge on the Cardano ecosystem? So you've said there's like 7 million in regards to USD assets moving back and forth since the launch, but how can we increase that and increase the amount of USD stablecoins on the Cardano side?
Sure. I think ultimately, it'll be up to the Cardano community and the DApps there to show that they want it, to have more DApps support the USDT, USDC, DAI. Right now, I think the biggest adopter has been Liquid Finance, and it has had a great impact on the bridge. But I don't think that they can build the whole DeFi ecosystem up alone. You need other DApps to kind of go in, and other communities to show that they want it and that can see the power of these stable coins or other assets, from outside BTC and things like that to come into Cardano. In terms of Wanchain specifically, what we can do is a couple things. One, we are trying to collaborate with as many of these projects as possible, both at the DApp level, like I said, with Liquid, but we've also done things with like Wing Riders and Jed and Spectrum and a handful of others. We've also reached out to a lot of the native tokens themselves, the Hoskies, the Giros, the Deans, the Shards, and kind of go in the other direction to show that cross-chain really is for everyone. Interoperability is for everyone. And then we can kind of almost say that this first bridge that we deployed, the token bridge, this one was really for the existing Cardano community, because it's really they're the primary potential user base. They can bring assets in from other chains to their favorite chain and kind of do things within the Cardano ecosystem themselves. This proposal, you can almost view it as kind of the opposite. Yes, it'll be a powerful tool for the DApps, but it's to reach out to other communities and have that liquidity from those chains come into Cardano to engage that way. So it's kind of the reverse direction in a way. And then besides that, we have other upgrades, you could almost say, to the cross-chain bridge, which will hopefully build this adoption. NFT bridging is not far off. And, now that Cardano is already integrated into our infrastructure, our future products are also going to be usable on Cardano, things like cross-chain messaging and things like that. And whenever we integrate a new chain, it's also connectable to Cardano. So as, Wanchain, the infrastructure hits 40 chains, 50 chains, 60 chains, it also means that Cardano can, reach these communities and this liquidity from 40, 50, 60 different chains. And then the other kind of thing that we can do and that we do is just kind of on the marketing side, the co-marketing side. We've done a fair number of giveaways so far, again, with Liquid and Wing Riders and Jed. And in fact, the timing of this call is probably pretty good. We're launching another giveaway this week, so you can keep an eye on on our socials to kind of get the details about that. And this is really just to kind of get Cardano users to try it. I think that's going to be the ultimate thing. But there's a lot of fear. No one's telling you, and we certainly aren't telling you to go and take, your life savings and throw them through a bridge. But, if you're curious, you can do it with $1. There's not really a minimum to get it to work. Just kind of get familiar with it. So that's what these giveaways are kind of good at. There's an incentive there to get people to just try it out. And then maybe once they try it out, the experience is enjoyable, or at least gives them a sense of trust or security. And then they'll be willing to kind of over time use it a little bit more and more. But these are all kind of more short-term bursts. These giveaways, not the new products. These are more long-term plays. But the giveaways are kind of short-term bursts. But ultimately, like I said at the start, it'll be up to the Cardano community and the community of DApps to decide that they want this type of interoperability within Cardano, and that they believe that this type of interoperability will be good for the long-term health of the Cardano ecosystem, because we certainly believe it is.
Okay, I'll make sure I'll put links to everything around Wanchain in the show notes down below. And I have done a video as well in regards to using the Wanchain bridge. So make sure you check out the links for that as well. Also appear in the top right-hand corner there, so you can see it there and get a reference to it as well. Now, if someone wants to get started, do you guys have any resources and tutorials as well that I can reference?
Yeah, well, first I would say the first place they should go is your tutorial. That video is very well done. So that's the first place all the users should go. But once you've watched Peter's video, then we also have our own guides. So we have written guides on our Medium account. We have video guides on our YouTube. So you can definitely go check those out. And then to use the bridge itself, it's just bridge.wanchain.org. And we have obviously like a Telegram group and things like that. If you have any other questions, we're always happy to have these conversations.
All right, brilliant. Temujin, thank you so much for joining me on this episode and talking through this level of interoperability for Cardano. I'm really excited to see and use my Metamask wallet one day and interact and swap for some Hosky tokens or some other meme tokens and see it appear on BNB or wherever it may be. So it's going to be a very exciting level of interoperability for the Cardano ecosystem. And I'll probably get you on again in the future to talk about the whole permissionless, decentralized way of creating a validator node for Wanchain as well. I think that's quite interesting. I did dig through the documentation and work and just have a look at how it all works. So it'd be really interesting to dig into that and get a little bit more exposure on how someone could set up a node there too.
Yeah, I'd be happy to dive into that on a subsequent call with you.
Awesome. All right, we'll speak again soon.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what